Hello, welcome to Tile Coach. I'm Isaac Ostrom. So this is day 2 of this shower remodel. This failure that was a flip house that they did a pretty looking tile but did a terrible job. It ended up leaking. If you want to see that video, I'll put the link in the description below. Make sure you're subscribed so you see all my videos as I progress from demo to building these showers and getting them ready for tile and installing the tile and all the other stuff that goes into building a shower. You saw yesterday we got all of the pan. I wanted to get the pan out and everything out so that I could let it dry because there was some water that got onto the subfloor. So we got all that up yesterday, had the fan on so that it all dried out. Everything looks great. It's dry. Luckily, no damage to the subfloor. So today we had to get the walls done. It was awesome. Ronnie came over to give me a hand. I'm still feeling a little bit tired. When I got sick last month, I'm just feeling still a little bit run down, so I worked really hard yesterday and I was like, hey Ronnie, I need some help today. So we teamed up and took the walls off and everything else, got the hot mop out. So now what I'm going to do, oh, and before I get there, you'll also notice there's no insulation in the wall. That's another thing. We have 2 exterior walls and the house flipper did not put any insulation in the walls. So when we go back in, we're going to put insulation in the exterior walls because that's important. But everything else looks good, and I finally figured out what happened with this shower. So if you remember when we did the tear out, they used window flashing on one side and a hot mop on the other. So I'll kind of explain what I think the house flipper did. Okay, so here is the line where the curb was that had the window flashing. This side of the curb had the hot mop, and for some reason I couldn't figure out why there was a splice right here, but what it was the original shower that they took out had a bench right here. You can just see the outline of the bench. And so when they took the bench out, so this was either a bench or it was a tub deck, like a jacuzzi tub deck, but it could have just been a bench. When they took that out and turned this into a curb, all they did was put in some 2x6s and then wrapped it with window flashing. So that's the point that failed. You can see. Yeah, so these 2x4s are all wet, and there's the top of the curb. There's the bottom. Failed. You can see it's still a little damp right there, but that's drying out quickly. So there was some dry rot in here, so I took the valve out and I put shark bites on them as temporary caps. Let me know if you use shark bites. We like to use them for temporary caps. What's cool is because they were filled with water and I didn't have to get the water out of the lines to solder like a copper cap on there. Just plug those little shark bites on there and it's done. So until we put our new valve in that bay, I'll just leave those shark bites, and then we charged up the system. But that water on the ground is just from when we cut out the old valve and it drained. But you can see we got some water damage on this stud, and the house flipper just didn't do anything about that. They just left it. And this stud is pretty beat up. I would say there's a good third of it gone. So what I'll do is I cut out the blocking on the bottom and I'll run a sister stud going up there, new 2x4. So this is all getting ready. You can still have our old hot mop drain. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this bottom flange, this old cast iron bottom flange out, and I'll be switching it to a Flow Effects. We're going to go back in with a pre-made foam pan from Revolutionary Shower Systems. You've seen me use them in my showroom, and now I'm actually going to be using it on this job. So you're going to want to stay tuned for those videos. They will be coming up. And I'm going to show you right now how I get the measurements for that foam pan. And I will also cut out, I'm going to go ahead and cut out this flange. I'll show you how I do that. Because if you look at it, you might think, well, how do I get that bottom flange out without cutting out the plywood, getting a hacksaw or sawzall in there, because that's threaded in there. I have a tool that many of you guys have seen that I use that's an inside pipe cutter that I can stick down there so I can get it out and then put a coupler on there and stub out my 2-inch. And then I'll also show you how I get my dimensions for my foam pan. Okay, so here is my inside pipe cutter. That's my setup right there. So I'm just going to stick this down inside to where the plastic begins and go around and cut it out. There. So much easier than trying to get a cutter from down below. You can see I cut off the drain there. Now that I have that, I can just put a coupler on there and stub more 2-inch coming up. So that saved me a lot of work from trying to open it up and cut it off from below. So a lot of you guys have seen me do that trick before to get those guys off. But yeah, that's all it is just that attachment right there on a cordless drill. So one of the really nice features about using a custom Revolutionary Shower Systems foam pan is that this drain location is not centered in the pan. This pan would be somewhere in here, but they got a header support. This is actually a beam, can't cut through it to get the drain centered, so it has to be right here. So all I need to do is take the dimensions of where the drain is going to be, send them to Revolutionary Shower Systems, and they will custom make the pan perfectly for this location with a level perimeter sloped perfectly down to this drain location. Okay, so first thing I need to do when I'm measuring for this pan, so not only the drain location is important, but I want to make sure these walls are square and make any adjustments if I need to. So I just laid a 4-foot straight edge, which is my level across there, and then I used a framing square butted up tight to my level, and then I'm going to use my tape measure. I'll use my tape measure, so the inside of the square I'm 3 inches, and then this side of the square I am 3 inches. So I'm good. That means this wall is square with this wall, so I can take my dimensions off of this wall. This floor, I don't know what they did. It was done by the house flippers, but it's cut out of square. So what I'll probably end up doing is I'm going to grind cut square with these two walls, and then I'll have the foam pan made for the widest dimensions. Then I'll use my grinder and cut that out. But it's always important, you know, say this was a 3-wall shower, you'd want to make sure that this wall was square as well and make any adjustments and note them when you do the drawing. So now that I know that that's square, I can get my 2 dimensions this way, and then I'm going to take my drain locations off of the square walls. Okay, so now that I've found my square, that these 2 walls are square, I can take my measurements off of the square walls for not only the pan but the drain location. So I have my handy little notebook that I'm going to be just taking some dimensions. So basically I have 61.5 and I have 61. So yeah, so this floor is cut out of square, so I'm just going to use a grinder and cut that out. So, but I'm going to go to the farthest point, which is 61.5. I'll give myself a 1/4 inch of play because we're going to have tile on the outside of the curb. So I'm going 61.25. 61.25. And then this way, I got 45.5 here, and I have 45 here, so this is cut a 1/2 inch out of square. So again, I'm going to go to the farthest point, which is 45.5 right here. Again, I'll give myself a 1/4 inch, 45.5. So So that's 45.25. And I'm going to make a note on here that this is opening dimensions. So I also need to account that I'm going to have 1/2 inch wallboard on the walls. So a 1/2 inch is going to be subtracted for the walls, because I'm going to have a 1/2 inch wallboard, 1/2 inch wallboard, and then we're going to have a curb, which I believe we're going to go with a 3-inch curb. Again, Revolutionary Shower Systems. Revolutionary Shower Systems has a really nice foam curb. It's a low profile 3x3, so they're probably going to be subtracting 3 inches off of this as well. But I'll talk to them about that. The important thing is I'm getting the opening dimensions here, and then we can adjust. So to center the drain is 26.5 off of this wall. I'm going to go 26.5. And then off of this wall, I got 28.5. 28.5. So this is what I have so far. And so again, I'll put deduct for 1/2 inch wallboard and deduct for 3-inch curb. So I'm going to write wall, curb, curb. So I'm really sloppy handwriting today, but you guys can see that's what I have for my notes. And that should be all I need to get the pan made. Again, perfect for that drain location. It's going to have a level perimeter around. It's going to have a 3-inch curb. And this should be really nice. So another consideration to make is that while my bottom plate is square there, if your studs need adjustment, if you need to sister your studs or shim them out, you don't want to be shimming the bottom out after you've made the measurements for the pan. So any adjustments to the walls, whether that's furring out, shimming, sistering the studs, you'll want to do that, or at least check to make sure that the bottom isn't going to get kicked out. And I did that. I probably should have showed you that first, but I'll show you. This wall here is almost a 1/2 inch out of plumb. See, it's almost a 1/2 inch out. But that's not a big deal. It's not going to affect my pan because I'm coming out on the top. I'm not coming out on the bottom. Now, if I had to fur out something like this, that's where there would be a problem. But that wall there is plumb, and then this exterior wall here, this whole thing, this whole wall leans back that way. But the bottom plate isn't going to change. That's why I could make that measurement. Again, if I had to sister out, kick the bottom out to straighten it out or to plumb it, then I would want to do that before I put my square on it and took my dimensions. But I didn't need to do that in this case. I know that the bottom is staying where it is, so that's why I can get my measurements. Okay, so day 2 is a wrap. We got everything ready. I'm going to give RSS a call, shoot them the dimensions, get this foam pan made. They have a quick turnaround. I'm super stoked on working with them on this project. I'm not sponsored by Revolutionary Shower Systems. They're just a smaller local company that I really enjoy working with, so I do everything I can to support them and others like Flow Effects and the Beast Mixer and the Bucket Liner. They're just small companies here in the USA, and I feel it's important to support them. So if you want to support me, you can go to tilecoach.com, pick up some merchandise, sign up for the Tile Coach team, because if you have any questions on any of this stuff, we have started a team membership, which includes access to our team forum where you can ask questions and get answers from professionals and others in the community. It's like one big happy family over there. It's really cool. So if you need help on your project, go to tilecoach.com. Last but not least, I love you. I love being your tile coach, and we'll see you on the next video.